All right, allow me a quick second to sell out here. I have some awesome resources available in the description. The first one being my Kano Combos spreadsheet. We have some various combos here with a key in regards to these, what these mean. We have our Wildfire Zap Blazing. We have the costs of the cards here. Let me zoom in for you. We have the standard cost if you were just to play the combo itself, if you activated staff, if you activated meta, and then we have the damage of these are the full damage of the combo without Arcane Barrier after each buff as well. Again, for these Arcane Barrier resistances, keep in mind I did annotate here in the top right that the AB is if they only Arcane Barriered Wildfire, because we don't want to be sending Wildfire if they have a full hand, so that they can Arcane Barrier additional spells. So let's say they have Arcane Barrier 1 on your base combo of 22 damage, you're going to do 17. That's a huge difference. Easy math is usually 1 point off Wildfire is plus or minus 5 damage, but you don't have to do that math here as you have it on this combo. We also have the other combo lines, that being some Lessons in Lava ones. I didn't do the Arcane Barrier here as I'm a little bit lazy, but it will be filled out. You can fill that out yourself as well if you want to. And then we have some Sonic Boom lines. I know that we aren't currently doing Sonic Boom, or not Sonic Boom, sorry. Some Spindle lines, as Spindle is not in the ICBM list or the Nagasaki list, but it was available in the Unga list, and there's an additional list that some other people are cooking with that have Flare and Spindle back in, as well as Cindering. Some potion lines. So we got Wildfire, Floodgate, X Blazing, so a Zap and Blazing. Recommended potion is the D pot, and Arcane Barrier on these. Again, Arcane Barrier being on the Wildfire. And a lot of these are empty because you have a combo builder. You can see what cards you potentially have and what they are possibly doing. You also have access to buffing on Crucible, buff on Metacarpus. You have your method of payment. So if you click other, that is just the base cost of the card. If you said it was a Kano activation, it should be the 3 resources. Let's zoom in here. So if we go, let's say, how did we pay for this? We paid for this off Striders. It increases the cost by 1. If, let's say, it was a Kano activation, it increased the cost by 3. Ragamuffins, it's going to be 3 because you paid for the Kano activation. So you can play around with that. We can also change, let's say we Crucibled the 1 for 4. Our buff goes up by 1 damage because Crucible buffs. But let's say if the buff was on Wildfire, you get that additional bump in total damage. And you can see additional items over here. If we scroll over, you can check your Wildfire amp. So this is the line for Wildfire, and it's buffing the next card underneath it. And you see your total base damages, your cumulative damage, so how much damage you dealt over each cost, your total cost of each card. And if we were to change this to a overflow, you can scroll over to the right here as your resources that you would gain. So we would have to have this buffed, so it even checks if it has dealt the correct damage. So now that we buffed it, we do have the 2 resources that we would gain off of it. And just to see, even if we buffed it and we went to Arcane Barrier 1 and then we move over, enter, it says you don't get the resource because they did Arcane Barrier your buff. So it does have all these. And then if, let's say, we go to Floodgate, so let's put that as a 0 again, and we go to payment method, we go to Floodgate with the buff, and it tells you, hey, best case scenario, you're going to draw 2 resources of 2 reds. Best case scenario, you get 2 blues. You can play around with it, build your own combos. Do keep in mind, if you want to use Kindle, let's zoom back in, sorry. If you want to use Kindle, so let's say this, I highly recommend always Kindle being your top card. Whatever card you want Kindle to buff should be the card underneath, and we'll just do Zap. So that way you see the Wildfire is dealing 5. You got the Kindle / Will of Arcana buff, and then you have your base damage of the Wildfire, but it's dealing 5 because it is buffed by that. So shout out to Ballin Too Much on Discord. He did create this beautiful thing here. So this will be available, all this together in one package on Patreon, but I will include the damage calculator for free as I did not create it. But this will be on my Patreon, as well as a slideshow of this video going over how to do all your combos. It will also include a potential cost and buffs. I wrote down ideal hand without Kindle because not everybody knows the proper way to do so on Kindle, but the video also includes proper ways to use Kindle, what order to do it. Again, this is also available on my Patreon as a bundle. These two will be together. If you only want the combo builder, that will be available for free. There are specific tiers. You can join for free 100%. You get access to my custom card back on Talishar for free. So when you go into your game, if you have your Patreon linked with your Talishar, you would just go down and you would click here and you would see my sleeve, which is a white border. Shout out to my creating my white border cards. Help it in the corner, the other corner. Check out that video. It's obviously Wizard since I covered Wizard decks. You will have to go file into make a copy, as this is view only. These are my copies of the documents. That is the same here. You got to go file, make a copy, entire presentation. Or you could just, if you have a printer, you can just print this out from here. So thank you for sticking through this portion. We'll move straight into the combos now. We're going to start off with our first combo being the Wildfire Zap Blazing combo. For the purposes of these combos, the cards are tailored so that the combo is possible for learning purposes, and we're going to go step by step very slowly. So beginning with, we want an ideal hand is such as this: 3 blues, blazing, and a Wildfire and arsenal. Of course, we always want potions, but this combo is just, hey, what can you do as is? That's how all these combos will go. We'll go step by step. Without Kindle, we will do Kindle combos later in the video, as we were looking for the basics of how to complete the combo properly, and then we can add more difficult things such as potions and Kindle. So with this hand and this setup, this is how I would go about doing it. So I want to pick these cards up and we'll move them over here so they still can be seen. How I would initiate this combo is such: we would go Kano, holding priority. We still have to pitch for our resources. And we activate a second Kano, pitching 3 for the cost, because we're trying to get down to 1 card for Ragamuffins. And we for sure need to cast Wildfire, so we will pitch. We will have 2 floating after we activate our boots, allowing for the next, again, we're going to hold priority here, sorry. So none of these have resolved yet. And then now that we have 1 card in hand, we're going to activate Ragamuffins. We're going to let this resolve since we have 1 card in hand. We're going to draw a card. We get a blue, and we're going to put a card on top of our library, and that's going to be the Blazing Aether. Now we're going to let things resolve again. So we're going to let boots resolve, allowing for the next card to be played as an instant speed. Then we're going to let the first Kano resolve. That will give us Blazing Aether. Let's move these over so we don't get things mixed up. I'll have our banished here. So Blazing is banished. And then we'll let the second Kano resolve. And we get a Zap. This one being Destructive Aether Tide. So now we have to ensure that we cast Wildfire as our next spell due to boots resolving. For those who don't know. We don't want to cast any of these because these are already at instant speed. You have to play Wildfire. We have available resources, so we can activate our staff. Since we have available resources, we'll have 1 floating, and we let that resolve. Show that it's been used here. We have 1 floating. So when we go to cast Wildfire, we have to pitch here. Since we had 1 floating, we would have 2 still remaining, allowing us the ability to use Metacarpus, because it says whenever you would like to cast a spell, when you cast a spell, you may increase the damage of it. And I highly recommend it if this is going to be the last turn, if you have the available resources, which we have 2 floating to pay into that resource. We have 1 remaining, and if we count our buffs, 1 from here, 1 from there, that would mean Wildfire is getting +2, which is very good against basic Arcane Barrier 2. We have Wildfire coming in for 6. Now that we have resolved the boots activation, we can move on to our next spells, and we want Zap to be the next one, or Destructive Aethertide in this case. And we still have one floating. And again, if it's your last turn, I highly recommend it. Since we have no other resources floating available, we do have a chess piece. We will pay the Metacarpus, giving it a buff of 1. And then we check for Wildfire. How much did it do? 6. So this would come in for plus 7. 1 from the Metacarpus, and 6 from the Wildfire. So after the Metacarpus buff and the Wildfire buff, this one damage spell would come in for 8. And now for the big math, if they had not protected against any of this, which is what we want, them to have no resources in hand is the perfect time to do it. We'd check all of our math. We have 6. We have 8, which normal math would put this at 14 for base blazing of 14 damage. But we have to also add the Wildfire buff. So 14 plus 6, that would be 20 damage in total. So we would have 20 damage on the blazing, bring our total to 34 damage for this combo if none of it was protected. And that's how we're going to do all our math, as if they have no arcane barrier for simplicity's sake. So that is how you conduct the Wildfire Zap combo, or if that's all you have knowledge of. We're going to move on to the Wildfire Lessons into a Blazing combo. I like to call this the old bread and butter when the deck ran as it normally did before Rosetta. That is one of our biggest combos, and that's what I'm going to show off here right now. Again, I'm doing these combos without Kindle for simplicity's sake. Again, you're more than welcome to swap out one of these blues for Kindle, but this would be an ideal hand. 3 blues in the lessons, and we're going to see some common trends in regards to how these combos go. That being, you pitch to Kano, holding priority, pitch to Kano, holding priority. For those who are unsure of what priority means, is you are going to keep doing things and you don't give your opportunity for windows for response, even though when you do activate it, they do get a window of opportunity. You're not going to resolve these effects yet. And then here, we're also going to pitch, but we're going to have 2 floating because we're pitching to boots, and we're going to hold priority there as well because we have more effects. Now that we have 1 card in hand, we're going to Ragamuffins, drawing a card, and ideally we're looking for a blue. We could do it with a yellow, but blue gives us just the most resources. This will go on top. That has resolved. Boots resolves, allowing us to cast the next wizard non-attack action at instant speed. We're going to resolve the first Kano. We're going to get a Lessons in. That's now in our banish. And then we're going to hold priority on this last Kano so that we don't have to pay for the Kano to find the card that we put on top with Lessons. Since we have 2 floating and available resources, again, I would staff using 1 of our resources. Dices are flying. So we have 1 remaining. And then we have to pay for the cost of Wildfire. And when we do, Metacarpus will be available. So we have a pitch here. That would leave us 2 on the Wildfire. And we have to keep track of how many resources we have available. So we have 2 floating and a 3rd available on our chess piece. We have to keep in mind that Lessons costs 1. We do have enough to Metacarpus here, as we have enough to pay for the Lessons. So we'll go down to 1 resource for the Metacarpus. That means where Wildfire is for 6 again. We are looking for Wildfire for 6 as often as possible. So we'll let that resolve. We'll move resolved items over here, and we still have Kano to resolve. Next, we have our floating resource, so we will send Lessons. We have none floating, but we do have the chess piece available. Again, if it's the last turn, you're more than welcome to hit your second. Use all your resources now. That way the game ends. You would gain a resource, but we're going to use it on Metacarpus here. Paying the additional 1. So the base here is 3, is being buffed by 6, and 1 here. So that's a buff of 7. This would mean it coming in for 10. Again, the dice are wild. So we have 10 here. We let that resolve, allowing Lessons. So again, this has resolved. We have now dealt 16 damage as the base. And we get to search for a card to put on top of our library with Lessons in Lava. And again, this is tailored. So the top card we're going to search for is Blazing, as that is the intended combo. And then we let the Kano resolve that we initially started with to find Blazing on top. And now we go through our damage again. I said we had dealt 16, but we don't forget about the Wildfire buff of an additional 6, bringing that total up to 22, if my math is right. Let me double check that. Yeah, that would put us at 22 damage on this. We'll just indicate that by the 2 dice here. I'm not going to get that much dice. So 22, bringing the total combo damage dealt, because this is dealing 22, of a whopping damage of 38 damage if they did not Arcane Barrier anything, bringing them fairly dead if you got any poke damage in between. This is, like I said, the good bread and butter. It's easy to do as long as you follow the steps correctly. Alright, after cleanup, we're going to go off on a combo that you can do on your own turn if you're unable to find Wildfire and you're looking at your hand. You're like, okay, I think I can get them here on my own turn. If not, I can get them really low and take some cards out of their hand. This is going to be a Lessons into Blazing. And since this is our own turn, we get to save all of our equipment as well. The way I would go about it is pitching for resources here onto the staff. That would get us to floating. As a Kano player, I highly recommend lots of dice. Probably bigger ones than mine. I just got these on a deals and they are a little bit small. So we have 2 floating. We will let this resolve buffing. I like to keep track of my buffs here in case we are running Kindle or any other amping stuff. Again, since we're doing this on our own turn, we're not going to Metacarpus because we want to save that for a potential further combo. So we'll go down to 1 floating resource. We still have 3 cards available here. This will be coming in for 4. We only need it to deal 1. So hopefully the Arcane Barrier allows it without Spell Void. So we're coming in for 4 damage. We are going to search for another Lessons. So we'll put Lessons on top of the deck. And then we will pitch to Kano, letting the Lessons be banished. And then we have the 1 floating. So we will send the Lessons here. It will be for 3. And again, we only have to allow it to hit for 1 floating. So that would be the cost of the Lessons there. And with this one, we want to search for Blazing. And we're going to go put that on the top of our library here. Blazing Aether. Then we have to pitch for the cost there. A Blazing Aether. We will have none floating. It will be banished. You do have 1 available card, so you could risk the top of your library being a 1 cost that you can get off there with top of Kano. For now, this is just a combo that we're doing on our own turn. We don't need to go too hard. And then here, we will just check the amount of damage that we dealt. We dealt 4 and 3. That is 7. We don't have any Wildfire buffs or Metacarpus. So it'll simply come in for 7 damage itself. That's not a bad combo on your own turn. You eat a couple other cards, hopefully. So it's a simple little 14 damage on Arcane, which is not bad. Like I said, you could risk it for a top. My deck is a little tailored at the moment, so I can't give you a genuine what would be off the top. But if you have the remaining blue, you can get another middle spell and increase this even more. But 14 on your own turn, if they're already low, and you have all your available resources for additional combo on your opponent's turn. Now, again, if we'll do the same combo, but on our opponent's turn, and show you how you would want to go about that. The combos are fairly all the same. Again, I'm doing this without. We're looking for a bunch of blues, as many potions as possible. Let's say we just had a rough game. We weren't blocking very well, and or they just had a lot of evasion, like Azalea or Reiner taking our hand. It's going to be similar. You're going to activate Boots here, though, since we are just trying to do a Lessons combo. We're hoping that they're low on cards. We're going to have 2 available floating. For myself, I like to hold I don't need to hold priority here, so we're going to let these resolve. We don't have 6 floating. We'll have 2, and then we'll go down to 1 since we're going to use the the staff, I mean. I'll keep track of my buff there. And then we will send the lessons for 4. This is ideal if they're coming in for 4 damage. We are going to search for another lessons. So I'll put lessons on top of the deck. And then we will pitch to Kano, letting the lessons be banished. And then we have the one floating. So we will send the lessons here. It will be for 3. And with this one, we want to search for blazing. And we're going to go put that on the top of our library here. Blazing Aether. Then we have to pitch for the cost there. A blazing Aether. We will have none floating. It will be banished. Alright, editor me here. I lost some sort of the footage in regards to doing Kano on your, sorry, not the lessons blazing line. For some reason, I don't have this portion here. But what you would do is you should have metacarpused this one and then metacarpus the blazing with this additional blue that you'll have in your hand, similar to in the lessons on our own turn combo. If not, you could risk it off the top and get a blue, a 1 cost off the chest piece. But user's discretion, that's all I have. All right, I'm going to show off the same combo on our opponent's turn this time. Assuming we were unable to do find Wildfire, and this is where we have to go off, or we think it's a good opportunity for this headline. Combos are always circumstantial depending on available resources and the current state of the game. So with this one, we're just going to go straight into the boots because we know we're going to send lessons. We're going to let that resolve. We will have 2 available resources. I will use 1 on staff. That leaves us with 1 floating, and that will go to the lessons. And then we have plenty of resources. We know that we're going to have to use this on a Kano to get the other lessons. This to pay for the lessons with 2 floating. And this to pay for the Kano to activate on blazing Aether. That leaves us with 2 available resources from our pitch and a 3rd one from our chess piece, meaning we have plenty to metacarpus nodes. So I will do so, pitching an additional card, leaving us with 2 floating. And this will be coming in for +2 on its base damage, making this 5. We realistically only need 1 to hit, but we're going to assume they're out of resources and hit for 5. We will search for a lessons in lava. We will have a Kano activation, banishing lessons in lava. We will cast lessons in lava with 1 floating and use the resource here to pay for metacarpus nodes, making this one only come in for 4. And again, we only need it to deal 1 to get the blazing. We'll activate this for Kano. Lessons will find blazing, which will be on top. And we will pitch to Kano to resolve blazing being banished. If you don't need this chess piece and you're 100% sure that will be the last point of damage, you can sacrifice it for another metacarpus activation. We're going to count our resources. Now our resources are damaged. 5 plus 4, that's 9. Plus the metacarpus would bring this up to 10. So a little bit higher, but we are using essentially all of our resources available on our equipment since none of it blocks to come in for 10 on blazing. So that's a 19 damage turn combo. Not the highest that we have capable of, but sometimes that's what you have left, or that's what you're capable of doing. Hopefully you had plenty of other poking down, and or hey, you think I can kill them after this and you're still alive. 19 damage is an okay amount. That is half of somebody's life, but again, it's not our highest threshold possible. Next, we're going to move into a combo that I highly recommend the need for a potion. There's potential to pull it off without, but your resources are going to be a little light. If you can't see this, this is a open the floodgate. So our combo is going to be Wildfire, Floodgate, a random zap, into Blazing Aether. This one, I highly recommend the use of a Deja Vu potion for this purposes. You can do it with an energy potion in a different way, but I'm going to show it with the Deja Vu. How I go about this combo myself is again similar to all the other ones. we are going to pitch open the Floodgate, which is one of the combo pieces, to activate Kano. We're going to again hold priority on that. We're going to pitch another blue to activate Kano again. And like last time, we're going to activate our boots. You can hold priority here if you want, or let it resolve. Either way, I'm going to let it resolve. So that way we can cast Wildfire when we need to. And then here, we're going to use our Deja Vu Potion. For those who do not know, it's an item that whenever you, at an instant speed, you can destroy it and put all cards in your pitch on the top of your deck in any order. So the order of this is going to be very important. We have 2 Kano activations, and then we're going to have a Ragamuffins afterwards. So the way I go about it is whatever blue you want to draw, and then from Ragamuffins, and then you're going to want your zap. Or, sorry, let me rephrase that. Since we have all blues, what I mean is you want 1 blue for your Ragamuffins activation, as that will put Blazing on top, and then you want your Floodgate, and then a guaranteed blue to draw off your Floodgate. So we're going to put these on top in this order. And then we're going to activate our Ragamuffins, drawing a card, not letting these Kanos resolve yet. And then we move to draw our card. We got the blue. We will put this on top. We'll let the first Kano resolve, getting the Blaze the Aether. We'll let the second Kano resolve, getting the Open the Floodgates. So we currently have none floating. We do have 1 card. And if, again, you always count your resources. What are we able to play with the cards available? We actually should have 2 floating on, from the boots, which makes a huge difference on this combo. If you didn't, you wouldn't be able to play the Wildfire and the Floodgate. That's why I like to say count your resources, and I don't do it very often, especially on Talishar games, but in real life, I am better about it, but not the best. So we have 2 floating after we had pitched 2 boots, and we have 3 here and 1 there. So that's 5. We have 6 resources, and we know this costs 2, this costs 4. With this, that'd be 5, and Metacarpus is 6. So we know we are able to fully buff our Wildfire at this point. So I will go down to 1 resource for the staff, and then we will pitch to play Wildfire. As their cost, we will have additional 2 floating. So we know that we can still pay for, with the chess piece, Metacarpus. Again, Metacarpus is not a necessity for this combo. We are just trying to maximize the damage. Let's say you had no chess piece, then here you could not activate Metacarpus because you have 2 floating. That is a requirement to cast your Floodgate. I'm just trying to maximize our damage here. We have 1 floating after that. For this, we have 2 buffs from our Crucible and our Metacarpus, bringing up to 6. Again, 6 is a common number we are looking for Wildfire to hit as it goes over standard AB3 for 3 damage. And now we have to activate our chess piece to gain the additional floating resource required to cast Open the Floodgates. Now we have none floating. Floodgates is a 1 damage, but is being buffed by 6, so it will come in for 7. And the surge effect is to draw 2 cards if it deals more than its base, which is 1, and we're dealing 7 on it, so we will draw 2 cards, hoping for 2 blues. The deck list currently now should have 36, depending on the version you're running. We did guarantee the 2 blues. Here, we have to hope that the top deck does have a zap, and most of our blues are. So here we will activate Kano again. This is a blind flip since we drew the zap that we knew we had. So we will flip the top card. My deck has been tailored for the purpose of education. So we did get the zap. Here, if we even got another 2 cost, we still have the floating resources available to do so, which is nice. We do have a few more yellows. Either way, we'd still afford a 2 cost if it was the yellow. If it was a red, we could only afford a 1 cost. And this will come in for 7 as well. And then we will come in for Blazing afterwards. We do have the floating resources, so we could Metacarpus here still, bumping that up to an additional 8. not by 8, but an additional damage. And then we can send in the Blazing with a Metacarpus as well, having one additional resource, or if we had a different card. But let's count up this damage to see how much Blazing itself is doing. So Blazing itself is dealing 21 damage. Actually, I did not account for the Wildfire buff itself, plus an additional 6. That means Blazing is coming in for 27, which is, I'm not going to put that many dice on there, but that is a decent amount of damage on Blazing. So if we dealt 27 here, we deal that plus the 21 we have already dealt. That is a 48 damage combo here. Again, depending on the zap, if you have not open floodgates, overflow, you would have an additional 2 resources, even after metacarpusing. You have an additional Kano, hoping you get something. But the purpose of this, that is how you do Wildfire, Floodgate, hope for a zap, and Blazing. You can also get more extenders and extend the combo that way. Sorry to interrupt your video, but at this current moment it is important to me that anybody watching my videos, only 28% of you are subscribed. We are trying to hit that 500 goal to be a more inclusive audience. And if even just half of you subscribed, I think we'd basically be at my 500 subscriber goal. So if you're enjoying the content that you're seeing, please subscribe so that we can get these numbers up in the bottom left corner to the goal initiated. So let's move back right into that video. Next, we're going to go into another Floodgate combo, but this one is going to incorporate Sonic Boom and still using the Potion of Deja Vu. So we're going to move into this one. Again, you want as many blues as possible and Sonic Boom to ensure that you get plenty of value off the activations. And again, the combo. If you hear any loud shouting on the side, my son is playing Breath of the Wilds and he does not have any food for his character, so he is always low health. So we're going to go into our combo as we know him so far, is the high quality Kano. Again, we're going to pitch the Floodgate here as it's going to go on top of the deck for the with Deja Vu. And then we will Kano again. And then we'll pitch the boots. Don't forget that you have 2 floating. Some people will not give it to you if it's a higher level event. So ensure that since you're going to use Deja Vu, put your dice somewhere that is out of the way of your pitch. So that way it can go on top. We are activating boots. Here, we're going to just hold priority this time, make it slightly different, but it is essentially the same thing. And you can Potion a Deja Vu here. The sandwich is going to be very much the same. It's going to be a blue to ensure your Ragamuffins gets it first. And we're going to have open the floodgates. And then we're going to have, this one will be a guaranteed zap, as we're going to do something different here. We're not going to be drawing that card. So again, those went to the top. We will resolve boots. We will then still have our 2 floating Ragamuffins, drawing a card, and then putting Sonic Boom on top. We will let the Kano resolve, getting the Sonic Boom, and then we're going to hold priority on this Kano. You'll see here in a second, since we have additional resources, we can pay for staff, going down to 1 resource. And then we do have 2 floating here. Don't forget about that. We are going to pitch here. We'll still have 2 floating for Wildfire. So we did pitch for that. Keep in mind to count your resources. If this is the last turn you're going to be doing things, hopefully this combo kills. We'll keep consistency and pop our chest for an additional resource that we will pay into Metacarpus immediately, getting us to that glorious Wildfire for 6. So I like to keep my resolved items here if I still have any unresolved features. So we're going to also still hold priority to here, and we're going to cast our Sonic Boom. If you remember, Floodgate should still be on top, and Sonic Boom has the cool ability to, when it hits, to banish the top card and reduce its cost if it's a wizard non-attack action. So the base here is 3. Wildfire buffed it by 6, so we are dealing 9 damage here. and we will banish the top card. The top card, being the Floodgate, is now reduced by 9 if all 9 help. So Sonic Boom is resolved. And in here, you have 2 options you can go with, but for the purpose of this, we know there's a guaranteed blue here that we can draw off Floodgate, and we also know it's a guaranteed damage card. So for the purpose of this, we are going to let the Kano resolve, so we get that Destructive Aether Tide. If you don't want to make any guesses, I would just draw the additional blue. So we're going to send Floodgate for free, since it does not cost anything. It is buffed by 6, so it comes in for 7. We get to draw 2 cards, and hopefully they are blues. And you can go various different directions from here. And for sure you can send this Destructive Aether Tide and Metacarpus it and still have 2 floating for a 2 cost, or you can try and find further extenders, being open the Floodgates again, or the overflow the Aether for additional resources. But that is the purpose of this combo, to show off what Sonic Boom and Deja Vu combined can do. So like say my deck is, you can have anything else. You can Kano and get another zap, send zap, and then buff both of these, or vice versa, and keep digging. The safest option is to Kano once, see what the additional spell is, and then Metacarpus them. Alright, after cleaning up, we're going to show off the combo that doesn't come up often, but it just demonstrates something fun you can do with Potion and Deja Vu. So you're going to need at least 3 blues and 3 overflows. They could be any color of overflow. For this sake, I have 2 blues and a red overflow, depending on your list. This is just not a standard combo, which is a combo that I had come in one of my matches, and it actually won me the game. So I needed specifically 3 overflows, and it happened to be 3 blue ones. So we're going to do similar combos as we normally do. So we're going to Kano, hold priority. We're going to Kano, hold priority. We would Kano a 3rd time. I don't have a 3rd Kano token, so we're just going to assume that's our 3rd Kano, as I don't Kano 3 times in a row that often. And then we are going to Deja Vu Potion, putting our 3 blues on top. We're going to want to put our non-overflow blue on top so we can Ragamuffins that. Then we will Ragamuffins, drawing us the non-blue overflow. And then we let our 3 Kanos resolve. So we get the red overflow. It could be anyone. It could be an additional blue one. Blue overflow, blue overflow. Our 3 Kanos have resolved. Again, we want to ensure to count our resources. So we know boots cost us 1. Wildfire costs us 2. We do have our chess piece, so we can pay for staff. So we will do just that. We will pay for boots. We will have 2 floating, which we will do 1 into our staff. And we will pay with our chess piece, going back up to 2 to send Wildfire. On this combo, we don't have the additional resources to Metacarpus our Wildfire, so this will only come in for 5. Again, this is a combo that I needed against, I think it was either an Aurora or a Syndra that had played out their last card with no remaining resources, and it was going to kill me. So we only have Wildfire for 5. And again, this could have been any overflow, but this is the overflow red here. So this one's going to come in for an additional 5 on top of its 3. So this will come in for 8 itself. My combo happened to be blue one. And then now we gain surge effect here. We gain 2 resources. So there are a few different options that you can go from here. Since we are counting our resources, we have 2. We can continue to Metacarpus pump the remaining ones. We'll show how that looks. We go into overflow. It's being buffed by 5. So normally this would be 6, but we have 1 floating. So we'll go down to 1. It will go up to 7. And we'll gain an additional 2 resources. So we do have a Kano activation if necessary. And then we can Kano, not Kano here, play this one. Comes in for 6 after the Wildfire buff. But we do have enough because we know we're going to get another one. Go down to 1 resource, pay for the Metacarpus node, bring it up to 7. And we'll go up to 5 resources. So we have enough resources to Kano and pay for anything. Keep in mind, you want to keep track of what cards you have already played and are left in the deck, as if most combos can end if you hit something like a Kindle or a potion. A potion might be able to extend us, as we can, if it's an energy potion, maybe get a second Kano off. But I think for the safest here, if this is going to be the end of the game, would to Metacarpus each of these and then Kano off the top. So we got a zap here, and we would have 2 floating, and we can Metacarpus it an additional time, having 1 floating, and again another 7. This is similar to the combo that I had on my Pro Quest, I believe, or RTN. I don't remember which one. They tend to blend into me. So let's count up the damage that we dealt with that one. So this combo here, after we add everything up together, is a 34 damage combo, which is not too hard to pull off, but it is an interesting one to have all 3 overflows into another zap. But if that's what you got, that's what you got. It's always keep an open mind. It's like, hey, I don't have a blazing, I don't have a floodgate. What am I supposed to do with these 3 overflows? Well, here you go. You get, if you're certain you'll get another card off the top with that last Kano activation, that will get you to the 34. If we minus the 7 from this zap, that is still a 27 damage combo. Hopefully we got some sort of chip damage in between that. Not every matchup is capable of doing chip damage, but 34 is not bad if you are certain you'll have some sort of spell on top. Clearly you might want some more potions like Clarity to ensure that you can get that additional spell, but this was for the purposes of just showing off something funky. We'll move on to the next combo. Alright, this one is going to be a combo that's not as used as often in current lists, as Wildfire has been cut in some lists, but I still think it is good lesson to learn how to do the said combo. As always, we Kano once, pitching our blue, holding priority. We will pitch another blue to Kano, and then we will pitch the boots, resolving the boots, and then here we have to hope for a blue. We do have 2 floating. We can hope yellow can get us there. Our chess piece can fix it with a red, but we want additional buffs like the Crucible. So here we will Ragamuffins, drawing a card. We did get the blue. Using Ragamuffins. Make sure you move your equipment, otherwise you might get called out for cheating. We'll let the first Kano resolve. Getting Spindle. And similar to the lessons line, we want to hold off on this last Kano activation. Finding a blazing. This combo is going to be Wildfire, Spindle, searching for the blazing to get the lethal. So we have additional resources. We have currently 2 floating. Remember, always count your resources after each thing to ensure that you haven't messed up anywhere and you continue to do the things that you want. So count our resources. We have activated boots already, so we're going to cast Wildfire. That's covered by our floating resources. Okay, we know we want to cast Spindle, so that's going to take 2 of these 3. That leaves 2 available resources, 1 floating and a chess piece here. Since we have 2 available resources off our blue and chess piece that we can use for other things, we're going to pay 1 here into staff. That'll leave us with 1 floating, and we're going to pitch for cost of this. That'll leave us with 2 floating yet again, and we will have enough for the Metacarpus nodes activation since we still have our chess piece. If you don't use Metacarpus because you won't have enough to cast your Spindle. So we're getting that glorious Wildfire for 6 as we always want. Okay, we let Wildfire resolve. So I like to, again, move my things to the side, sideways, to show that they have been resolved. We still have this Kano activation, which we aren't going to use yet. We'll activate our chess piece. We'll go to 2 floating. That 2 floating will go to Spindle. Spindle is being buffed by 6 from the Wildfire on its base of 4, bringing us to 10, which is a decent chunk of opting. So let's say if for some reason you don't kill him here on this combo, you can opt your hand for the following turn that you'll draw into for that. So we will let this opt. We're going to opt 10. We're going to let that will be eventually resolved. So we're going to look at the top 10 cards. And right now, since we have no available resources, we are just looking for the blazing. And there we go. We have our blazing. For this purposes, we're going to finish the game with this blazing. So we've opted everything to the top because we liked everything we saw. And we're going to let Kano banish the blazing Aether. Again, we'll count up how much damage that is. Blazing of 22. The blazing itself is dealing 22 damage. So if we add up our total damage dealt, it's 16 plus 22. That is a 38 damage combo. Hopefully they're not getting life and you manage to deal 2 damage to them somewhere else. Again, some lists are not running Spindle. I am testing a Spindle Incindering list. Bring back for the slower metas. This is being recorded before High Seas spoilers. So this is still a good one to do. You just got to ensure that you have the available resources. Potions make a huge difference because you might be able to get a 3rd spell in here if you have additional resources to do so. But again, always count your resources, see what you're capable of doing. Let's move on to the next available combo. I'm not going to quite go over it because, again, some lists aren't running Flare either, but you can do a similar effect with the Flare into the Spindle, searching for the Blazing. So if you didn't have Wildfire, you could have the Flare there, Spindle in hand. You would send Flare, as it would still buff Aether Spindle just as much because we would have enough resources to metacarpus this, as this is a 1 cost versus the Wildfire is a 2 cost. And you can do a similar combo with this, but not all lists are running Flare. It's just a substitute. Do the same thing with as you would for Wildfire. A lot of the combos I didn't include Kindle for simplicity's sake. I will now introduce the various ways to use Kindle. Like, what is the best sequencing? Because that's something I see in the Kano Discord consistently. Like, hey, where in my line of Kano boots, staff activations do I do Kindle? I'm going to show a few different variations, including you need a rags target. So let's say you had like Blazing Aether here. You needed to use Ragamuffins, or you have a potion of Deja Vu. You don't have a potion of Deja Vu. We're going to start with, we have 3 blues and a Kindle, and Wildfire and Arsenal. And we have, with this, you technically might want to rags the overflow, but let's say we don't want to. We have other things we want to do. That overflow is not good enough for us. How I would go about doing this combo, and again, this one is without potion of Deja Vu, so we don't know that if there's a blue on top or not. How I would go about it is we need to get empty-handed for Kindle. So we're going to Kano twice, and we are going to activate our boots, still holding priority on the boots, no resolution there, and then we're going to activate Kindle. So the reason we're doing this is that way, if we get a random card off the top, like we don't want, so here, we're going to Kindle. We're going to let Kindle resolve. We're going to draw a card. Oh, we drew a red, and it's a red we really would like to play. So here, if this is where you would rags, because we don't want that. Let's see what else we get. So this is the blue. We'd much rather have Kano banish this than this random blue that we don't need. So that's how you would go about it if you have no good Ragamuffins target and you're unsure of what your top card could possibly be. And it's here, this instance, we got Blazing. We don't want that. And then again, you just let everything resolve like a normal combo. So you'd get Bop, and then you get another Kano activation. We get Gaze the Ages, which is a good one to see. And you would just go into, keep in mind of your Kindle buff. So Kindle did buff. I like to keep my buffs on my staff. We have 2 floating. From here, I would go into, I would cast Blazing first. Oh, I lied. I take that back. We activated boots. We cannot Blazing first. We have, again, count our resources. We do have enough for a staff activation, so that would put us up to 2. Because we know Gaze of the Ages will come back to our hands, so this is being buffed by 2. We pitched for Wildfire here at cost. We'd have 2 remaining resources. So far, none of our cards cost anything, and we are getting another. We get to look at the top 2 and guarantee a Kano activation. So I will, not Crucible, Metacarpus here, bring us up to +3 buff on Wildfire. So we get to a 7-powered Wildfire as opposed to 6. And we let that resolve. And then we would go into Gaze the Ages. We get to opt 2. I did accidentally opt 3 one time with that. So keep in mind to ensure you don't get a penalty, which is they get to see all 3 cards and decide which card goes on top or bottom of your deck. And then you resolve your finish of Gaze the Ages. So I say put your cards down here, guarantee that there's only 2, then pick them up. So we get another Wildfire and a blue. So this would go back to our hands. We have 1 floating and we have a chest piece. So we can go into, we can do whatever we want with here. We have a Kano activation and we would have 2 resources available. So we can get this Wildfire by activating Kano, then our chest piece, pay for the cost, And this would get buffed by 7. So on the base of that, it'd be 10, right? 7 plus 4 is 11. So those are resolved. And then we have blazing, which is 7 plus 11 is 18. 18 base, and then it's being buffed by additional 18 from the wildfires. So that's 32 on blazing, which should kill. So we got a little bit lucky with that. This one was not tailored. Now we'll go into, we do have a Ragamuffins target, that being the blazing aether here. So here, since we have a rags target, we want to get, we're going to Kano, actually one whole second here. So you can go about this 2 different ways. You can start off with Kindle and go Kano, and then rags, and then get your separate card. We can go about that way. Then you'd have 1 blind Kano, or you can go like this, have a Kano activation, Kindle Kano. Again, these are all blinds, you're uncertain. Then you Ragamuffins, and then you would draw your card, and then you'd have a blind Kano. Again, you have to get empty-handed at some point, so you always use your additional resource on boots, and then draw a card afterwards. So let's go back from the top and show the proper. So we'll do it the one where we start with Kindle blind here. So we go Kindle, hold priority, activate your Kano, pitching your blue. Activate your Kano, pitching your blue. Activate Ragamuffins. You would draw a card. And then put Kano blazing on top. We let the Kano resolve. We let the Kano resolve. We got an overflow, that's not bad. And now we still have a card in hand, none floating, and we need to get rid of the card before we can draw with Kindle, as the draw stipulation is to have no cards in hand. So we activate our boots, and we'd have 2 floating. And then we draw off Kindle. So we got a blue. That's good for us, as we have no way to swap it out. And then, of course, from here, you would just go off on your combo, have additional enough resources that I can. Staff, Crucible this, go into Overflow, and I have enough for additional blind Kano after this. And now for the full line of where we go the other direction would be we Kano. Ooh. Kindle, and then we Kano, and then here we want 2 Ragamuffins, draw, swapping out hopefully this blazing. We got a blue, that would go on top. Kano would resolve, getting the blazing, and here this is where you would do boots so that we get empty-handed. Still have the 2 floating, draw off Kindle. We got the blue. It just changes what cards show up when. And in Kano, we have the Destructive Aether Tide, versus that was in our hand for when we did the other way. Clarity Potion allows you to decide that factor better to see what cards you get off Kano, and the Kindle and Kano, deciding which ones you want. And now we'll go over how we would go about Kindle with a Potion of Deja Vu. And again, it doesn't really matter what this 4th card is. It just changes again if you need to do the rags target or non-rags target for this. But we can guarantee blues for both with this setup here. So here, I am going to Kano. I like doing Kindle here so I can get it more efficiently, the blue that I want. And then Kano here. So we're going to be drawing both these blues, so realistically, it doesn't matter what order they go in. We'll just put them on top, because we're going to Ragamuffins, putting this on top. We draw the gaze, Kano resolve, and then we activate our boots with the 2 floating. Boots are done, not 6 floating, 2 floating, and then Kindle will draw us the overflow, and then Kano get us a blind card. That's how I like to do it. If you have additional potions, you can set it up so that way you can get an extender versus a blind Kano. So that is the end of what I think are the necessary combos to know. There might be some additional ones that I didn't quite get right or missed. Like sometimes there's a combo you could do with Gaze the Ages and some other cards. I didn't show off overflow, making additional extenders, except for in the one overflow thing. I didn't think it was a necessity at the current moment. I could do a more complex combo. Right now, I just wanted to cover the way in which you combo, not necessarily every single combo that exists in the game for Kano. If I missed one that you enjoy a lot, please leave in the comments. I might make a potential advanced combo guide just showing you like a shuffle through actually how your hands would play out with a full deck. Maybe you're drawing more yellows, more reds. There are some additional potions you could have as clarity and energy potion, making your combo slightly different, but a lot of them do revolve around the potion of deja vu. You could substitute energy potion for some of these. Instead of having them on the top, you use your ragamuffins for a different card. But that's just experience of playing Kano, is playing around. And speaking of playing around, I have some things that we can look at here in just a second.